Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pizzapia, and with me, as always, my good pals, Derrickson here, Andrew Erickson, Derek Brown, and you. So welcome, friends, to another Start-Sit edition. It is Week 11 in the NFL. You can believe it. Yes, and we're still relevant, aren't we? And if we're not relevant, that's okay. You're here for the fantasy football anyway. We'll have some fun, but let's stay relevant. Let's make the good decisions. Let's not give up on our playoff hopes and dreams. We got a lot of football to talk about today. So, gentlemen, let's just dive right into it. Derek Brown, I know you're all rested. You had your scented candles in the office all afternoon, getting ready for the show, getting zen. So let's hit the RBs and let's hit it hard. Who are the RBs in Week 11 that we feel good about starting?
Well, much like the Woodwick humidor candle is the 101, you got to be starting Miles Sanders this week, and I'm right in line, maybe a little bit ahead of ECR. I've got him at RB12, ECR has him at RB14, and this comes down to the Colts. They have been a run funnel over the last few weeks, since Week 4. Before Josh Jacobs flopped last week, since Week 4, they're 20th in rushing yards per game, 17th in explosive run rate, and top 12 in fantasy points per game allowed to running backs. You look at the Eagles, Dallas Goedert is out. A.J. Brown is banged up, still playing, still practicing. We don't think he's going to be out or anything like that. DeVonta Smith is banged up. So I think that looking at the Eagles offense, they have not leaned heavily on Miles Sanders over the last few weeks. I think we're going to see a lot of Miles Sanders in this game.
All right, so obviously game script did not go in favor of Miles Sanders when the Commanders came to town in Philadelphia. Hopefully Miles Sanders will have a better look. Let's get to another guy here on the RB list that you feel good about starting in Week 11. Who is it?
It's going to be Elijah Mitchell, and this is another game script guy. I mean, I have him as almost a top 24 play. ECR has him as a mid RB3 at RB29. I might push him up into the top 24 guys, and this comes down to we look at these split backfields, like you talk about the Lions, the Bears, before Herbert was out. You look at San Francisco, Elijah Mitchell in his first game back, yes, he only played 25 snaps, but he got 19 touches in those 25 snaps, 88 total yards. It's not insane to say that he could get upwards of 15 plus touches again this week, and we know that you can run on the Arizona Cardinals. They're 16th in rushing yards per game, but 23rd in EPA per rush, 25th in explosive run rate. So we know what the 49ers are about, guys. They want to run the ball, and they don't want to run Christian McCaffrey into the ground. We're going to see a lot of Elijah Mitchell this week.
Yes, I saw more of Elijah Mitchell last week than I wanted to see. I could tell you that already. So I'm sure for a lot of Christian McCaffrey managers, they saw a little too much at times. A little too much. All right. So Mitchell, Sanders, they're both in. Give me one more guy you feel good about in Week 11 at RB.
Apparently, I'm over the moon versus ECR. I've got Isiah Pacheco as a top 15 back. ECR has him as a low RB2. I've seen some of the ranks have him as a high-end RB3. And I don't know what's not to love about Isiah Pacheco. He took over the backfield last week. He had 16 carries, 82 rushing yards. He played a season-high 56% of snaps. And we're projecting positive game script, guys, versus a banged-up Chargers team. We don't even know who's going to play, who Justin Herbert is going to be throwing the ball to this week. We know you can run on the Chargers. They're bottom 3 in nearly every rushing metric that you could pull up. Isiah Pacheco is going to smash this week, and I want to be above consensus. Like, if he climbs any higher, I might push him into RB1 territory, because 20-plus touches, 100 rushing yards, and multiple scores is in his range of outcomes this week.
The range of outcomes. Andrew, we just spent an hour together, a glorious, wonderful hour, by the way, where it turns out, I don't know if you know this, Derek Brown, but Andrew Erickson is starring in some Hallmark films coming up this holiday season.
How nice.
But that's for everybody to go back and watch that live stream on YouTube. That's called a tease in the business. But let's talk about Pacheco, because that was a hot topic here. I feel like every question we took somehow had Isiah Pacheco as one of those pieces. And we talked about maybe, just maybe, we're going to see a Kansas City Chiefs team down the stretch that is relying heavily on Isiah Pacheco and Kadarius Toney. Do you think that trend starts this weekend with those two guys?
I think it does with Pacheco, at least. You know, the snaps have been trending in his direction. The team has totally phased out Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Remember, this team put in a bid for Eno Benjamin. So they're trying to find other running backs to just get away from CEH. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if he was inactive in this game, if they actually added another running back, or maybe Ronald Jones gets the active status over
chill.
CEH.
Why do you do these things? Why do you say these things in the middle of the show like this?
Because it all points to Pacheco being the guy they want to go with moving forward. The Chiefs have kind of figured out that we can't just throw the ball over everyone all the time to win games. Like, eventually, when you have a lead, you need to run the football. And
well, that's
Pacheco
what the Bills did last year, too. The Bills came to that moment, that realization, and Devin Singletary had a really good last 6 weeks of the year.
Yep. So Pacheco, I'm all in on him this week. And I think that, mentioning the Chargers defense, last in yards allowed before contact per attempt. And that was before they had a bunch of defensive linemen get hurt last week. So I bet Pacheco, whenever he's gotten touches, whenever he's had at least 8 carries in a game this season, he's averaging 5.4 yards per carry. So when he's getting volume, he's efficient. So Pacheco, let's go.
All right, Derek Brown, back to you. Let's talk about the RBs for week 11 that we perhaps feel less confident about.
So I'm not telling anybody to sit them, but you need to be more hesitant or at least temper your expectations when it comes to Dameon Pierce this week. I'm going to have him as a mid to low end RB2, and it's not because of the workload. This all comes down to the Commanders' run defense is legit, guys. They're 8th in rushing yards per game since week 5, 7th in EPA per rush, and 6th as far as explosive run rate allowed. So, and their pass defense has picked it up too. So, with a Texans team that I know Dameon Pierce is going to sniff 20 plus touches. My thing is, I don't know if he gets into the end zone, and I don't know if the Texans are going to be able to move the ball really well in this game.
Would you play Brian Robinson over him? Because that was legit a question someone asked us, and we had long hesitation on it. I think we ended up going Dameon Pierce, but we understood why, because that matchup on the flip side of this game is so good for Brian Robinson against the Houston front.
I wouldn't play Brian Robinson, but would I play Isiah Pacheco over him? Yes. I think that's possible. And there's a few other running backs that I think are at least in that conversation. Like, I'll open this up to you guys. Like, really good matchup. And now no Khalil Herbert. Would y'all consider David Montgomery, who could get 80% of the snaps, 20 plus touches, in a really good matchup?
What do you think, Erickson?
I'm playing David Montgomery over Dameon Pierce. Come on. Everyone hates David Montgomery, but this is exactly the spot you want to play him in.
It's true. It's true. It's all falling
It's
there.
gross,
all right.
but I mean, it's the matchup, guys. I mean,
it's gross, but it's points are points. All right, so give me one more guy here you don't feel good about at RB this week for week 11.
I don't know how ECR has Cordarrelle Patterson as a top 24 running back. Did we not look at the workload that transpired in Atlanta last week? They had 4 different running backs get rushing attempts. 2 different guys with Patterson got routes. I don't really understand this, guys. Like, Patterson, since he's been back, has played 38% of snaps. He's only averaging 10 touches and 36 total yards per game. Like, that's not RB2 territory or material. I get that the matchup versus the Bears is really good, but it looks like Atlanta wants to put Patterson in bubble wrap. So I can't rank him higher than an RB3 this week. And it's not like he's been efficient either. He's 31st in yards after contact per attempt and 48th in PFF's elusive rating. So I get why people like him. I'm not saying I hate the guy, but he's not playing 50 to 60% of snaps. I don't project that that's what's going to happen this week. So I cannot rank him as a top 24 running back.
Well, it's funny because if you don't like him this week, I don't think you're going to like him next week against Washington either. So maybe this is the time to get out of the Cordarrelle Patterson business. What do you think about Patterson this week and maybe beyond too, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm definitely on the other side with Patterson. I actually have him ranked above ECR, and the reasons I have him, obviously the matchup is good against the Chicago Bears, but he has 10 days off. Like, remember, they played on a Thursday night after he had just been activated off IR. So it wasn't really surprising for me to see him only come out and have 6 touches after we didn't know what his workload was going to be like at all, returning from injured reserve. And to him being wrapped in bubble wrap, then why is he returning kicks? Like, they're having him on kick return still. So I don't think that his workload is going to be as limited, especially now that he's had 10 days off. We see weird usage sometimes on Thursday night games with teams treating their running backs a little bit more in committees because it is a short week for a guy that they know is coming off of the injured reserve. Because I'm looking at what his workload was before he got hurt, and that's what I'm attracted to, especially in this juicy matchup that also happens to be a revenge game for Cordarrelle Patterson.
Oh, the revenge game. Okay. He's played for like 4 teams.
And the offensive coordinator too, Dave Rangone, also from Chicago Bears.
There you go. What about the ball boy? Is there any revenge for the ball boy? Did he get let go? No? About him.
To Erickson's point too, are you factoring the fact that it was a tsunami game basically last week with the weather and stuff? Do you think that could have played into his snaps as well?
Yeah, I think I mean, the Falcons didn't have really control of that game at all. They were trailing in that game because Foreman just basically, Carolina had the ball for a majority of the game. So I think that also influenced his touches where, both teams in this matchup want to run the football. And I think Cordarrelle Patterson in a dome, I want that speed in my lineup.
All right, let's play a little game of who should I start. And remember, if you need extra help, we've got help for you over at FantasyPros.com. And if you go to FantasyPros.com/start, you can use the Who Should I Start tool, which is awesome. They just redid it this season. It's very cool. Go check it out. Again, FantasyPros.com/start. It's free. You like free stuff, don't you? All right, let's get to Najee Harris, Isiah Pacheco. There we go. Derek Brown, dare I ask you, we've got Cincinnati Bengals against the Pittsburgh Steelers, as where Najee is going to be playing in Pittsburgh this week, and Isiah Pacheco on the road against the Chargers. Who would you rather start, Pacheco or Harris?
This is 50-50 based off the tool, and it's not that
way to blow the ending of the bit. Way to go, Derek.
Dramatic.
It's okay. So everybody, it's 50-50, which means it's up to the three of us to advise everybody because the experts can't get out of their own way this week on this one. So it's up to us. We bear the brunt of the responsibility. So go ahead, Derek Brown. Who are you starting?
I'm going Pacheco, and this is not even close for me.
Not even close. Okay.
I get Najee's got a really good matchup this week, but he hasn't been explosive. He only saw one target last week, so you're looking at similar usage patterns for both of these guys. Give me the guy in the better matchup on the better offense. It's going to be a positive game script.
Erickson, is it Pacheco for you as well?
Yes, because I don't like to play running backs that have bad knees. So no thanks for me and Najee Harris.
Yes, 3 for 3. So there you go. So it might be 50% with experts, but it's 100% on this side with these experts. So let's go. We're all in the Pacheco wagon this week. Well, hopefully it'll carry us to some victories. Let's do another one here. Michael Carter against New England on the road, or your precious Elijah Mitchell, Derek Brown. Erickson, we'll start with you with this one. Who would you rather start, Carter or Mitchell?
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to lean towards Mitchell here, and I actually probably have to move up Mitchell more in my rankings after listening to Debro talk about him a little bit more. Like, the thing with the Jets is this game is just gross. Jets-Patriots is always a gross game. Two teams that have really good defenses and offenses that are just like, blah. So I'm trying to get away from Michael Carter, especially with, James Robinson now a couple weeks into the system. How much more they work in James Robinson? We saw it with Jeff Wilson. He got traded for and then became the RB1 in the offense. Like, does James Robinson usurp Michael Carter? Don't know, but it's still a concern. Whereas Elijah Mitchell, you feel good about his role even as the number 2 back to Christian McCaffrey.
All right, Derek Brown, how about you? Who would you rather start, Mitchell or Carter?
I'm going to go with Mitchell on this one, and it's not only the matchup, but it's a tough sell to start Michael Carter versus a defense that's allowed 2 total touchdowns to running backs the entire season. So, yeah, give me Mitchell.
All right, 71% of experts are on the Michael Carter wagon, though, not Elijah Mitchell. So there you have it. And of course, if you need extra help on top of the free stuff, don't forget My Playbook. Now, My Playbook is free too. FantasyPros.com/MyPlaybook. You can go premium for 6 free months there at FantasyPros.com/offers. But the Start Sit Assistant tool is available for you, and you get all the bells and whistles when you go premium. So regardless, go download the My Playbook app. And or just go to fantasypros.com/myplaybook, sync your teams, and check out the Start Sit Assistant to get you that extra help, get you over the hump, get you into the playoffs and into the championships. Let's go to Andrew Erickson now, and let's talk a little wide receiver. It's week 11. Who are you feeling excited about starting this week?
Yeah, so we're going to start with the Philadelphia Eagles here and DeVonta Smith. So he's wide receiver 19, the ECR. I have him at wide receiver 10, because I'm just looking at how concentrated this passing game will be for the Philadelphia Eagles because there is no Dallas Goedert. We've already talked about A.J. Brown being banged up. So DeVonta Smith is the healthiest of these Eagles pass catchers, and I think that's going to benefit him greatly. If you look at the games where he's had at least 7 targets, his finishes 31, 15, 59, and 29. So he's been a top 30 receiver in all but one of those games where he's had at least 7 targets. He's going to get 7 targets in this game because there is no Dallas Goedert. And they're not going to try to force targets to Quez Watkins, Zach Pascal, and some tight end that they're activating off the practice squad. So I think that it's a opportunity for Smith, who's kind of been a boomer bust, kind of Gabe Davis-esque player this season, where I think you can feel a little bit better about his floor this week. Even though the matchup is tough against the Colts, they still have given up big numbers to wide receivers at times when they're not scheming away certain guys. So if A.J. Brown is out there, I could see him playing more of a decoy role, which would open things up for DeVonta Smith, who I still think is a very talented real-life wide receiver. My second guy is Darnell Mooney. He's wide receiver 22 in the ECR, wide receiver 19 in my rankings. Look, he hasn't had that boom game yet, despite all the great things we've seen from Justin Fields, but he's been efficient. 4 for 4 last week on his targets, 57 receiving yards. He's running a route on basically every single Justin Fields drop back, and this is the perfect matchup for him. Now, no team's allowed more fantasy points to wide receivers than the Falcons this year. They've allowed the third most receiving touchdowns, and eventually Cole Kmet will have to stop catching all the touchdowns for the Chicago Bears, and what better week for him not to do that when he's on the injury report with a thigh injury. So looking at Darnell Mooney, since week 4, only Donovan Peoples-Jones has more receiving yards and less touchdowns than Mooney. So the touchdown regression has hit Cole Kmet. I think Darnell Mooney's next. I think it's going to be this week against the Falcons.
Okay, so Mooney's good, Smith good. Give me one more you feel good about in week 11.
Yeah, so this really surprised me that I kind of stumbled on Parris Campbell as a solid start this week. 9 targets last week with Matt Ryan back under center. I really never thought we were going to talk about Parris Campbell again, in the Sam Ehlinger-led Colts offense.
You ain't the only one, let me tell you.
But with Matt Ryan, look at his last 3 games with Matt Ryan. Parris Campbell has a 26% target share. He has 24 receptions, averaging 8 catches and 68 receiving yards per game. He's averaged 21 fantasy points per game in PPR in his last 3 games with Matt Ryan. So, and I think that he, as the slot receiver for the Colts, exposes the big weakness in the Philadelphia Eagles secondary. They're without starting slot cornerback Avonte Maddox. He's missed 3 games this year. Eagles defense in those games has allowed an average of 24 fantasy points per game to slot wide receivers. So with the perimeter cornerbacks locking down guys like Michael Pittman, I think Parris Campbell is going to feast in the inside from Matt Ryan.
All right, what are your thoughts here about the reinstating of Parris Campbell into our good graces in fantasy, Derek Brown? Do you think the same as Andrew that with Matt Ryan back in this game, we're in for a good spot? Or are you a little concerned because, look, the corners of the Eagles are very good, and they came off their less than stellar performance against Washington, I think. Did they just take it out on Pittman and everybody else?
Andrew, remind me again, where do you have Parris Campbell ranked?
He's in my top 30. I really want to rank him above Pittman. I'm teetering on that, though.
Well, spoiler alert, I'm not high on Pittman this week. More to come on that later in the show. But let's talk about Parris Campbell specifically, because different receiver, different spot. So, Debro, after that leading question where you were trying to probe Andrew Erickson, what are you getting at, good sir?
I think we're hand-holding in ranks. I have Parris Campbell above Michael Pittman. I have him at wide receiver 32. I am perfectly in lockstep. This is a Derrickson-approved play. I love Parris Campbell, and this comes down to, if Avonte Maddox was playing, he's been put on IR, then I would be much lower on Parris Campbell. But Josiah Scott has not been good in the slot. And yes, just because Terry McLaurin cooked the outside corners for the Eagles last week does not mean that Michael Pittman is going to do that this week. I've been on Parris Campbell. I think that if you, regardless of the matchup, also with Matt Ryan versus pressure, and if the Eagles try to bring the house versus him, he's going to get the ball out of his hands quickly. And again, more targets for Parris Campbell. So I love him. I think he's a strong wide receiver 3 that maybe could be wide receiver 2 in PPR formats this week.
All right, Erickson, let's talk about the guys you don't love in week 11. Who are those guys at wide receiver?
I don't love DJ Moore. He's wide receiver 20 in ECR. I have him wide receiver 27. I'm probably going to continue to drop him down the ranks because Baker Mayfield is the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. And we saw this play out for the first 5 weeks of the year. Moore was averaging 3.5 catches for 38 yards. Despite having a 26% target share, he had 1 finish inside the top 28, and that was the week that he caught a touchdown. So unless we're going to expect this Carolina Panthers offense that has the lowest implied team total on the slate at 14 points for DJ Moore to have a monster game and catch a touchdown, call me skeptical of that happening. So I think that we're kind of entrenched on DJ Moore, like in his couple of games that he had a couple of weeks ago where he was good. They're like, okay, like we can be optimistic. We can play DJ Moore again. It's like, yeah, because Baker Mayfield wasn't his quarterback in those games. So we need to get off of our priors. PJ Walker's not the quarterback anymore. And they are also getting guys more involved. Terrace Marshall is getting more involved. Like, he was a non-factor to start the year. Laviska Shenault, they're like dialing up plays to get Shenault involved. So I'm trying to get away from DJ Moore as best I can.
So what you're saying is the window to sell DJ Moore is closed, basically.
I mean, someone in the Discord said they traded DJ Moore for Amari Cooper, and that was approved by me.
Well, that's a good day for them. That is a very good opportunity. Like that.
Even in the blizzard coming up for Amari Cooper, it's still a good move to make.
Yep.
That's right. You'll take the 0 this week, and then the points the rest of the way. All right, let's get to one more guy at wide receiver that you are concerned with in Week 11.
Yeah, so for me, it's Curtis Samuel. He's wide receiver 26 in ECR, and I have him at wide receiver 40. Like, I was just blown away at how high Samuel was in the ECR, because as great as Terry McLaurin has been with Taylor Heineke, it's been the total opposite for Curtis Samuel. He has a 15% target share of his last 3 games. He's only seen 4 targets per game. And again, going back to that one catch he made where the ref basically blew out one of the defenders. Like, if he doesn't make that catch, we're not even talking about Curtis Samuel as a start-sit option. So with Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas getting healthier, the Texans matchup is not good for wide receivers, allowing the 3rd fewest fantasy points per game to wide receivers. And is this a game plan where the Commanders are going to go and be like, all right, let's get Curtis Samuel the ball? It's like, no, we're going to give Brian Robinson 20 touches. We're going to give Antonio Gibson 20 touches. We're going to throw the ball to Terry McLaurin. And that leaves Curtis Samuel with literally nothing to work with. So get him out of your lineups. I don't understand why he's 26 in ECR.
It sounds like a very similar conversation Derek Brown and I had last time on another podcast. But actually earlier in the week, we talked about Curtis Samuel under on Betting Pros for that potential of what we're looking at the trend of the receptions, and we went on the under. Not only did Bogman and I nail that one, but we also nailed the Washington Commanders, not only covering but winning outright. So it's a good show. Hopefully y'all watch that. Huzzah! But the Curtis Samuel thing was something we dug into real hard for everything that Andrew was talking about. And we said, look for these reception numbers. Look at the under, because the numbers were at 4.5. And when you take that betting concept over to the fantasy world, it's really hard to give you a fantasy productivity when you're having less than 4 receptions in a game.
I don't really understand why people are big on Curtis Samuel.
Because he was fun and they picked him up early and he was useful, and it's hard to get over that. But it happens every year. People feel like, look what I did, I got this thing and it's working. But it's the Cordarrelle Patterson of 2022, right?
Yeah,
it's working, it's great until it's not, and then when it's not, oh my God, it's bad.
I've got him at wide receiver 40 this week. Desmond King in the slot has been really good, and I wrote the same exact thing up in the primer. I said if the ref didn't run a pick play, nobody would care about Curtis Samuel. It would not matter. So again, my palms must be getting sweaty because Erickson and I are holding hands so much on the show.
Well, I mean, we were both top 6 rankers last week, D-Bro. You did beat me at 3.
Love to see, baby.
I was 6.
Hey, well, all 3 of us were top 25. I mean,
Yes,
I was the top. It was 23. All of the cool kids in the top 10, but whatever. It's 23. It was pretty good. But anyway, let's talk about who should I start at wide receiver. Joshua Palmer or George Pickens. Pickens, one of our favorite guys this week. We like this matchup here against the Cincinnati corners. A lot of people still on Palmer too. Certainly against Kansas City, there could be a lot of opportunity depending on if Mike Williams plays or not. So Erickson, Palmer, or Pickens, who's your selection at wide receiver this week?
I think I'm going to still go with Josh Palmer here. My only exception would be if Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are both active and playing. I think I'd probably try to shy away and go back to George Pickens. I think that both guys are in good spots, but I mean, Josh Palmer still has Justin Herbert as his quarterback. He's going to play in a potential shootout game against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a good matchup, and Josh Palmer is still seeing a ton of targets and opportunities in the Chargers offense. Not to mention, like, DeAndre Carter is banged up. Michael Bandy's not getting targets. Gerald Everett is also hurt. Like, Josh Palmer is like the only guy that is healthy, and Justin Herbert's his quarterback. So I'm always going to lean on that a little bit more, even though I do still think Pickens is a good option as well.
What about you, D-Bro? Pickens or Palmer?
I'm going to go Pickens on this one. They're right back to back in my ranks. Like, I've got George Pickens at wide receiver 26. I got Palmer at 27. If again, a lot of factors to dive into here. If the offense kind of craters around Josh Palmer and he's the only guy getting targets, of course, I'll move him above Pickens. But right now, projecting that even Carter plays, Everett plays, and projecting that Allen and Mike Williams are out, I slightly lean with George Pickens.
All right. I'm going to slightly lean towards Palmer again because of the volume. If Williams plays, I actually like Palmer even more because you have to account then for Williams' presence on the field, which I think is a good thing for Palmer. But it is very close. Ironically, though, 60% to 40% on the side of Palmer for the ECR. So interesting there. The experts very much so on Palmer decisively. I think it's closer, though, than what the experts are saying. Let's go to the next one here. Jakobi Meyers against the Jets or Darnell Mooney against the Atlanta Falcons. Debra, why don't you start with this one? Who would you rather start, Meyers or Mooney?
Who do you want to start the number one wide receiver for Mac Jones or Justin Fields? I'm going to go with Fields on this one. Give me Darnell Mooney.
Okay, fair enough. That was a simple, eloquent point there by Derek Brown. Andrew Erickson, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Darnell Mooney. I talked about him a little bit already. And it's weird. I feel like a Jakobi Meyers hater like half the time because I've never really recommend him to start. And I even like have him on one team. I like never start him, even though I know he's a good player. But I just don't think he has a ton of upside with Mac Jones. Like he has to catch a touchdown. And I just think it's a game where they're going to feature Ramondre Stevenson a lot. Whereas Mooney, look, I don't think this Cole Kmet injury is nothing. Like, if he's limited or doesn't even play, like, Mooney and I think actually, like, Chase Claypool to some extent are really interesting pieces of this Bears passing attack. I think the interesting thing about the Bears is the Falcons can't generate pressure. And Justin Fields, while he's been making all these spectacular runs, it's because he's under pressure that he's scrambling. He's actually going to have time to sit back in the pocket and throw the ball, and we're actually going to get to see.
No, I don't like that. I want him scrambling. Okay. No, on behalf of everybody who has Justin Fields and everyone who picked him up the last couple of weeks, because we told them, even if you're a single quarterback league, pick up Justin Fields. Just do it. Don't ask questions. Just do it. You want him running. I want him running.
Maybe he throws a little bit more because he'll have time to do so.
Does it surprise you, gentlemen, that Meyers is actually 60% to 40% Darnell Mooney in the ECR choice? Does that surprise you? How do you feel about that?
It surprises me a little bit. I mean, I've got the back-to-back in my ranks. This is not because I hate Jakobi Meyers. Like, I've got Mooney at
No, you've been a defender of him on the show for weeks.
Yeah. He's a stud. I mean, I've got him at wide receiver 20, so he's a wide receiver 2. And he got 12-plus targets. I want to say it was 13 targets last time they played them. The matchup leans to Meyers, but for all the reasons, again, I think we get a Mooney ceiling game this week because he's due. He's due for touchdowns, and he's due for a monster game.
All right, let's move on to the quarterbacks and the tight ends. Before we do, quick reminder, too, don't forget, if you're part of our Discord, we got that touchdown call contest. We're giving away $25 to our Fantasy Pro store every single week. You buy hats, hoodies, sweatshirts, whatever you want to get there. Fantasy Pro swag there. It's a fun little contest, too, to have some fun. So go join our Discord, fantasypros.com/chat. And don't forget to go join that contest. We're also giving away a jersey, too, autographed Stephon Diggs jersey. Lots of fun things. Go check it out. The Touchdown Calls channel, fantasypros.com/chat, our Discord, which is a great place, by the way. Let's do a little quarterback situation here. Aaron Rodgers tonight against the Tennessee Titans or Russell Wilson against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Andrew, you and I spoke about this on the live stream. Last time we really liked Russell Wilson, he was playing the Raiders. Well, wouldn't you believe it? All of a sudden, he's got the Raiders again. And Aaron Rodgers certainly did throw the 3 touchdowns to Christian Watson, but is that something we can rely on going forward, considering what this Packers offense has shown you this year so far, which has been underwhelming to say the least? So who would you rather start, Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson? Andrew, you're up.
I'm starting Russell Wilson. Like, I want no part of this Titans Packers game because it's just going to be mud. It's going to be 2 teams that want to run super, super slow and not throw the ball and give the ball to the running backs. Like, that's it. And where at least Russell Wilson, look, he was QB3 when he faced the Raiders last time. And the Raiders, as dysfunctional as the Broncos are, the Raiders are just as dysfunctional. So it's really one of those. I think I wrote it up in one of my articles this week. It's the stoppable force versus the movable object, which is the Broncos versus the Raiders this week. So I'm going to go with Russ.
Well, let me tell you something too. I mean, D-Bro, I mean, the total for this game is 41. So are you excited about that for Aaron Rodgers? Or are you on the Russell Wilson train as well?
I'm going to go with Rodgers on this one. And this comes down to Christian Watson's ascension in this passing attack. And I think Aaron Rodgers, he's been good versus pressure and versus the blitz. The Titans cornerbacks are overrated. Christian Fulton, he's going to play in this game. But outside of him, I am not scared of any of their other corners. And they're bottom 3 against deep passing. I think the return of Randall Cobb, who was quietly playing really well before he went out, also helps the Packers and give them another option to go to. Well, I'm not projecting a massive Cobb game. I think the Titans secondary is getting a little bit too much love. Their pass rush is good, but their corners are not good. I think it's going to be another big Watson game, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good game.
Yeah, you mentioned what I was going to mention, and we have, after this, the live stream on Betting Pros where we do, the Thursday night preview. Mm-hmm. And you're right about the corners. My concern is Aaron Rodgers getting the ball off in the first place, because they do get to the quarterback, and that offensive line is not great for Green Bay. Ironically, I was looking, it's only 41.5 for the Vegas Denver game, so it's not like either is really exciting total, but I'm going to go break the tie here with Russell Wilson. I'm on the Wilson side, but Andrew, you and I are in the minority here, 40% to Aaron Rodgers, 60%. Old habits die hard, I guess, for people. We shall see. Let's go to the Superflex world. Ryan Tannehill or Matt Ryan. So there you go. You got Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, Derek Brown. Who do you want to start between these two guys?
I'm going to go.
And you can't say no one. You got to pick one. That's the game.
I'll go Matt Ryan. I don't feel good about it, but here's the thing. If we're talking about Parris Campbell and we think that he can have a decent game, as well as check downs to Jonathan Taylor, I think Matt Ryan is in for a better game than Ryan Tannehill. Like, who's going to catch the ball for Ryan Tannehill? Who's he throwing it to?
Treylon Burks? Nick Westbrook-Akinye? Dontrell Hilliard? I'm trying to answer your question. Those guys.
So 40 carries for Derrick Henry incoming. Okay, got it.
I just want Tannehill to get that rushing touchdown. That's all I want. I want the Tannehill rushing touchdowns to come back. That's what I'm hoping for. All right, how about you, Erickson? Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill, who you want?
I'm going with Matt Ryan. Just a game that projects to be much faster in terms of pace. I just think there's going to be more plays run. It's in a dome. Like, I'm not trying to play two quarterbacks that don't want to throw the ball on a Thursday night in Green Bay where it's freezing outside versus two teams that want to run a lot of plays on a track. Like, I think it's that simple. I'm going Matt Ryan.
It's funny. I agree with you guys. But Tannehill, 55% to 45%. You would not have thought that. I guess everyone's just so afraid of the Eagles, which they should be. But I think Matt Ryan's got a chance to put us more fantasy points. All right, let's get to tight end, the streamers of the week. D-Bro, why don't you kick us off? Who do you want to stream at tight end this week? Who's worthy of a selection and a pickup?
Oh,
so what? You're not excited about streaming tight end this week? Is that what you're telling me?
No. The streaming options look kind of yuck. And I'm gonna attach myself to a pass catcher with Zach Wilson, which scares the bejesus out of me. But Tyler Conklin, I have him at tight end 14. ECR has him at tight end 18. I think it's possible he sneaks into the top 12 this week. Looking at, since week 7, 22% target share. He's running a route on 60% of dropbacks. And facing the Patriots, that was his last eruption game. And I'm not projecting he catches 2 touchdowns again. But the Patriots are tied for the most receiving touchdowns allowed to the position. And they are 13th in fantasy points allowed to inline tight ends. Conklin is playing inline on 62% of his snaps. So as much as I'm going to have to douse myself in holy water and do a bunch of dances and all kinds of things, just hoping that Zach Wilson doesn't just crap his pants in this game, I'm going to go with Tyler Conklin.
You mean Zach Wilson, who has 7 interceptions in his career against the Patriots in 3 games? You mean that Zach Wilson?
Mm-hmm,
yeah, you might have to do more than a dance, my friend. It's a lot more. I don't know how many candles you got to light for that one. You're gonna be lighting a whole lot of candles, lots, and you're gonna have to blow them all out, make a lot of wishes. All right, Andrew Erickson, let's get to your streaming tight end for week 11. Who is it?
Yeah, before I name mine, I do like the call on Tyler Conklin. It's one of these scenarios.
Don't encourage him. Why do you do that?
I think it's a good call because you look at Belichick. He's not going to look at Conklin like, right? We got to take this guy away.
I feel better about this.
They're not going to try to take away Tyler Conklin. Let him catch as many dump-off passes as he wants. So
I don't disagree. I just don't even know how many dump-off passes there's going to be. I think the more completions to the Patriots than to the Jets could be in his future. But anyway, let's keep going.
I'm going with Foster Moreau. So I have him at tight end 11. ECR, he's tight end 12. Over the last month, he's filled in for Darren Waller, basically playing a full-time role. Last week in week 10, 95% route participation, ranked number 1 amongst all tight ends. Look, he plays on every single snap. He's running route on every single drop back from Derek Carr. You have Devontae Adams getting shadow coverage for Patrick Surtain. That's just going to open up opportunities for Foster Moreau to get targets. The Broncos ranked top 5 in targets allowed to tight ends, and he's averaged 6 targets per game over his last month. Look, tight end is gross this week, and Moreau, who is available on a lot of waiver wires. I know, in half of my leagues, I'm starting Foster Moreau this week because either my tight end got hurt, I lost Ertz, I lost Dallas Goedert, So I've just kind of plugged and played Foster Moreau.
All right. Well, who should I start? Andrew, Foster Moreau against the Denver Broncos, or Hayden Hurst against the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I'll go with Foster Moreau here. I do have these guys ranked back to back in my rankings. I think it's just because I think Moreau just has less target competition. Like Hayden Hurst has Tyler Boyd, who has a great matchup in the slot this week. He has T. Higgins that he's battling for targets with, where Moreau, it's Devontae Adams, obviously, but Surtain is covering Adams, and then Matt Collins, who is the cardio king. So for me, I would lean slightly towards Moreau, but could ultimately get burned if Hayden Hurst catches a touchdown.
I would agree. D-Bro, you want to make it a clean sweep here?
Yeah, I'm going to go Moreau. Hayden Hurst is going against one of the teams that I look at as no-fly zone for tight ends, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even with Minkah Fitzpatrick out, I don't want any part of it. I think T and Boyd have good games here.
All right, let's get to our starts and sits of the week and a little flex appeal too, because we bring the flex appeal to every show. The starts of the week for me, how about Brian Robinson? Look, if ever there was a week, you're going to start Brian Robinson coming off a good game against the Eagles, and now he's got the Houston Texans. Yes, this is the time to put him in your lineup, and I've got him higher in my ranks than a lot of other people do because it's the matchup. It's there. The touchdown equity goes up. You know they're going to try to run the football. They're feeling it right now. The Houston Texans are awful against the run. Don't overcomplicate things. And yes, there is enough, for those of you wondering, between Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson to go around. Everybody can eat. Everybody can get full. Everybody can stock your fantasy lineups with points. Derek Brown, who's your must start of the week?
Talked about the Cincinnati Bengals. It's Tyler Boyd, baby. I've got him as a top 15 wide receiver this week, and this is not just, okay, Jamar Chase is out, and no, I don't think he plays. He's still in crutches, people, so don't even believe all those headlines. But with Tyler Boyd, 81% in the slot, he's going to face Arthur Mallett, who has not been good, 76% catch rate, 115 passer rating, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are allowing the most fantasy points per game to opposing slot wide receivers. Tyler Boyd week. Let's go.
All right, Andrew Erickson, whose week is it for you? Who's the must start of the week?
It's Kadarius Toney. Look, the Chiefs are down, not just Juju Smith-Schuster, but Cole Hartman's not practicing. I know MVS returned to practice today, but I think that this is a week we really see a Kadarius Toney breakout game. Just last week, on just playing 44% of the snaps, he had 4 catches for 57 yards and a touchdown on 5 targets. Look, he was being targeted on almost 30% of his routes run in his second game with the Chiefs. So if his role increases, which it should just based on all of the injuries on Kansas City, Kadarius Toney attached to Patrick Mahomes in the most pass-heavy offense in the NFL, who is electric with the ball in his hands on Sunday night? Come on. It's easy.
I'm glad there wasn't one more thing. I think you might have exploded. I'm glad that was it. If there was a fifth thing, could you imagine? I don't know. The whole show would have blown up. All right, let's get to the sits of the week. Garrett Wilson. I know. I love Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, this is not personal. It's just business, okay? Going back to the who do you take away, this is who you take away. You don't let Garrett Wilson beat you, but normally Zach Wilson beats himself against the Patriots. That's typically what happens there. I've watched enough of these games. I see what goes on. It's ugly. It can't start Garrett Wilson this week. I'm sorry, and there's too many better options out there. D-Bro, I was going back and forth between the guy I chose and the guy you chose. So I'm glad you chose him because I don't want to start this guy either. Who is it?
It's Michael Pittman. Talks about Parris Campbell. We have love for him. We do not have love for Michael Pittman. And it's not going to change, guys, just because Terry McLaurin burnt Slay and James Bradbury on the outside. They're both corners that if they can't get their hands on you, if you're going against speed receivers, which Terry McLaurin can still fly, that's not Michael Pittman's game. Darius Slay and James Bradbury are corners that I want to avoid on a weekly basis. He's going to get 75% of his routes against these two elite corners. Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, CJ Gardner-Johnson, has a pick in like every game for the last 5 weeks. It's crazy. He's like the Trayvon Diggs streak of last year. It's unbelievable. Erickson, who is your must sit of the week?
It's Brandon Cooks. I'm assuming that he ends up suiting up. I know that he's missed some time this week with injury and just look, he's tapped out of the season. Like he had his captain status stripped. He's playing as many snaps as Chris Moore, who is a wide receiver on the Houston Texans, if you didn't know. And look, like since week 2, Nico Collins is the wide receiver 1 on the Texans. Like people need to realize and embrace the Michigan product that this is Nico Collins' job as the wide receiver 1 in Houston. Now, I wish Davis Mills was his quarterback. I'd be more excited.
He won't be much longer. You've only got another 7
that
weeks.
Is true. But Brandon Cooks being my sit, I mean, he hasn't seen 10 targets in a game since week 2. That's what Nico Collins saw last week in his first game back from his injury, which he suffered in week 7. I just think that even in a good matchup against the Commanders, who are a team that you want to throw on, not necessarily run the football on, as we've talked about with Dameon Pierce, he's not playing all the snaps, and I can't justify playing him. Would you play Chris Moore? No, you wouldn't play Chris Moore, so why would you play Brandon Cooks? So I'm out on Brandon Cooks, and that segues nicely into my flex appeal, which is Nico Collins, because 27% target share last week.
Here? Did you just skip a segment without permission?
30% target rate.
What just
led
happened?
the team in routes run. I'm still going because I love Nico Collins. Washington, 4th highest touchdown rate allowed through the air. And the last 2 games that he started in, Davis Mills has thrown for 300 yards. So yeah, Nico Collins is my flex appeal as I segue off of my sit of the week, which is Brandon Cooks. On to you, D, bro.
Erickson's got
great.
a professional transition.
Can you do a
baby.
Manscaped read?
I love it.
I'd like you to do a Manscaped read or something here today on the show. How about that?
Oh my God, I love that. We need to get that clipped. Oh,
That was awesome.
that was
funny.
so good. Oh my God, I
Oh,
gotta
you guys.
recover from that for a second.
This is
Woo, man, Erickson's on fire, man. I love it. Okay, let me pull myself together, compose myself. All right, all right. My guy for flex appeal is going to be Deion. And I got tears in my eyes right now. I can't even see and talk. DeAndre Carter. If he plays this week, since week 6, DeAndre Carter's got a 12% target share, 5.5 targets per game. And you're looking at the matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They've allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game to opposing slot wide receivers. I'll give you a freebie, another one. So if DeAndre Carter does not go this week, I'm going to go with the Cardio King. I'm going to go with Matt Collins, because if Devontae Adams gets shadow coverage from Patrick Surtain on the opposite side without Ronald Darby, I think we could see Matt Collins get pushed some more targets. If it's not Foster Moreau that's going to emerge from the Raiders passing attack this week, it's Matt Collins. On to you, Joe.
No, well, I thank you, gentlemen. So kind of you to let me go ahead and take the show back. I will go with Darius Slayton this week against the Lions. Why? Because the Lions. Do I really need another reason besides that? No, I don't. Now, the other day, I know you made the case for, out of the slot, a little bit more action there, but Wan'Dale's dealing with a little bit of an injury right now. So guess what, boys and girls? It's time to play Darius Slayton and hope for the best. Against the Lions, I think we're going to be pleased with the outcome. I don't care if it's a CUDA. I really don't care. There's enough space there for Darius Slayton to at least get a touchdown. And last week, that was my dude that I battled our good friend Pat Fitzmaurice about. And guess what? He got a touchdown, didn't he? I'm going to go 2 weeks in a row. I'm running on empty here, trying to double down on Darius Slayton against the Lions. Let's get to the listener mailbag straight from our Discord, fantasypros.com/chat. Of course, free to join. Don't forget, but you also get premium membership. You get access to AMAs, stages, and I pick your questions from there and I put them on the show and I make you famous. Let's get to Squirrel Master. There you go. That's real name. Start Pittman or Rondell Moore for week 11. Derek Brown, why don't you kick us off here on this one?
This is disrespect to Rondell Moore. Can we just say that? Like, this is not a question. This is not.
I get it. I understand. I understand. Pittman's a guy you put a lot of draft capital, a lot of hopes and dreams in.
I know,
He's had a lot of volume all season. He hasn't returned a lot, and it's hard sometimes to let that go. It's like the chips at the end of the canister of the Pringles thing. It's hard to get to them sometimes, but you got to turn upside down. You got to eat it anyway.
I was wondering where you were going with that, but I think it's disrespectful to Rondell Moore, because here's his finishes over the last 3 weeks, guys. Wide receiver 6, wide receiver 16, wide receiver 16. These are pretty good.
I agree.
This is easy, Rondell.
I would go right to Rondell Moore too. How about you, Andrew Erickson?
3 for 3, Rondell Moore.
There you go. Look at that. All clean sweep. When they took away the captainship from Brandon Cooks, by the way, did they make him stand in front of the team and like rip the C off his chest and say that you're a disgrace to the uniform?
How else do you take away someone's captainship? You don't
to me, that's what you do.
Hey, Brandon, you got to bring your jersey in because we got to take off that. C.
No, just the C. Just bring in the patch. No, you keep the jersey, just the patch. Yep. Yeah, get little scissors, the little tiny ones. Yeah, you just cut them up there. I want to stand in front of the team. The coach has to. Lovie Smith rips it off of him. He has to do the walk of shame back to the locker room.
This is what happens when you don't follow the rules.
There you have it. Hopefully you all follow the rules and sit these guys that we told you to and start the guys we told you to, and hopefully everything works out like it always does, right? Every single Sunday, it's always exactly how we think it's going to be. But more often than not, we do okay. I will say that's why you're still watching and listening, because we're fantasy pros and we get you the best information we can. and in the most fun way possible. Andrew Erickson, MVP of the show today. You get the game ball for sure. Again, that'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Andrew Erickson and Derek Brown, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at FantasyPros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.